If you have a potential IHT problem, make sure you do not buy another property in your name until you watch this video. Hey everyone, my name is Misiewicz from Optimise Accountants, and I want to talk to you today about IHT. IHT is a tax called inheritance tax. Yes, I know, HMRC like to tax you when you're alive, and they want to tax you, well, when you're not. It's an awful thing to have, right? Is that you pay tax all through your life, and yet HMRC want their bit of the pie, even when you're finished from our world. Unfortunately, these are the things we need to worry about, and as you can see from this diagram, you will have an IHT allowance of £325,000. £325,000, which includes, by the way, any investments that you have, your home, any cars, any jewellery, any paintings, any major assets that you have in your name could be amounting up beyond 325,000, and then you've got this. That's right, 40% tax, which would then need to be paid upon your death by the estate. This is where I'm saying to you, do not buy another buy-to-let property investment in your name if you've already got an IHT problem, because an investment of property, it cannot be rolled over. There are certain things that may be rolled over on your death. If you've got a business, which is a trade services, selling products, you could be a dentist, you could be a builder of some description. All those kind of trade services or selling products, if you've got a business, you can roll that over so it's outside of IHT. The problem, these things, properties, are not going to escape IHT. It is going to be added all to your other assets. And if you're not careful, then your buy-to-let property portfolio could be subject to IHT, which then could put you or your estate in major concerns if it's unable to pay the IHT bill. All right, before I get started, this video is all about IHT protection. Now, we've already shot a video about limited companies. The first video we did was, is a limited company worth your while? Make sure you press on that link. And we did a second video that said, well, if a limited company is right for me, how do I extract money out of it in a tax efficient way? Well, we did a second video all about that too. So please watch those videos if you want to know if a limited company is right for you, or indeed if you want to know how to extract money out of it. This video is all about IHT, or inheritance tax protection. So let's imagine that you've got no other form of assets, and you've got a buy-to-let property portfolio. Now, we know you've got a home. You might be rented, to be fair, but most people do have a home if they're buying buy-to-let properties as well. But we're going to assume that you have no assets in your own name at all. What we're going to do here is where someone has dived straight into buying a buy-to-let property portfolio inside of a limited company. So that's where our focus is for this video. Now let's imagine that someone has set up a limited company and they have purchased 5 properties. Each one of those properties has got a value of £100,000, and they all have a mortgage of £75,000. Now, each property has got a net equity position of £25,000, which means that it's got a net asset value of the portfolio of £125,000. Now, if that's all that person has got, it is below the £325,000 IHT limit, which means there is no IHT problem at all. And you kind of think, well, that's okay then, we have no issues to worry about. But I'm sure that there are many property investors, just like myself, that was around 10, 15, 20 years ago, when we could see house prices going up. And I am no genie. I cannot stand here and say to you that house prices are going to go up in value double as they used to every 10, 15 years. I can't tell you that. I wish I could, because I would be down the bucky straight away placing a bet. Actually, that's not ethical. But, I would be taking the most advantage of a buy-to-let portfolio in terms of increasing value. So rather than go to the bookies, which isn't probably the most ethical for me to do, I would probably instead go and buy a lot of buy-to-let property portfolio. Wouldn't you? So what would happen if the property values did indeed double in value or close to? Well, now we're going to see a situation where each of these properties are now worth £250,000 each. Now we're going to presuppose that we've gone into a buy-to-let property mortgage and we didn't repay the mortgages. All we've done is repaid the interest month in, month out. So therefore our debt position doesn't change. So therefore the only thing that's really changed is the market value of these properties, which also means that our net asset value position has also increased. So here we can see that example that we've got £175,000 for each property. Now that's got net asset value. If you times that by the original 5 properties that we had, you can quite clearly now see that there's a property portfolio worth £875,000. This £875,000, you'd be saying, well, this is great news. My property value has gone up significantly, and you're right to assume that it's a good news. Well, ultimately, it is good news, isn't it? But there is a downside, because now if you look at that property portfolio of £875,000 and you pop your clogs, all of a sudden you've now got an IHT lifetime allowance of £325,000, which means you've got excess now of the IHT free band, and you'll be paying 40% tax on what's remaining. Well, by Joe, you've now got an IHT problem that you weren't aware of 10 years ago, and you may not have done anything about it. So what you've done is you've left your estate with this problem of how to pay your IHT bill, which you left them to deal with, not yourself. Oh dear, that'd be completely difficult when you're in a recession and you're not able to sell your properties. Worse still, £875,000 and the property go down in value. Now, there are ways of reducing IHT bills if your property value does go down, or you sell it for less than it was valued at upon your death. But at the same time, do you want to be leaving your estate with this particular problem when they should be spending the time grieving for your loss? Ultimately, it's not a good situation to be in. So how would you fund £220,000 worth of IHT? Well, the one way around it is to buy life insurance. Life insurance is not something I could talk to you about. I am not an IFA, so I would make sure that you speak to an IFA or a wealth manager that can help you with financial decisions such as these. I can't go any more than that. All I can say is that there are insurance products out there that will pay for the IHT bill that you're going to have to pay in this example. Okay guys, so does this make sense to you? Can you see how you might have a potential IHT bill? Indeed. Please write in the comments box if you currently have an IHT problem and you're not sure how to solve it. Please post your question or your comments or your concerns so that I can respond to you within 36 hours. I'm all about giving you great value by watching these videos, but also to give answers to some of your questions that you may have that's not already been dealt with. Let's talk about solutions. So one of the solutions I want to talk to you about is leverage. We know from this example that we've got a potential IHT liability and we want to remove it as much as possible. Well, we can do that because debt goes against your IHT bill, because all it does is debt increases, your net asset value decreases. It's a great way of reducing your liability. And in this example, we could see that the property values have gone up. And our original spec, we said that the person had a buy-to-let mortgage of 75%. Well, what if the property values went up, as we're shown here, and the mortgages was also leveraged back up to the 75% level. Well, also now we've increased the debt position, which is decreasing the overall net position of each property. And if we times that by the 5 properties in question, you can start to see, well, hey, I no longer have an IHT problem at all. And in fact, what could I do with this? Because let's not forget, if you were refinance your properties, you might say, well, the cash is being left inside that company, which in itself is creating myself an IHT problem. So I haven't solved anything. Well, not really, that's not true, because what you could do is you could take the money that you've leveraged from your property portfolio and you could take that money and then invest it into your personal pension. The nice thing about pensions is that that money is protected from IHT. So you're able to decrease the taxable profits of the company because the company is investing in your pension, which is therefore a cost, and you've secured yourself away from IHT because now that pension money is IHT free anyway. So that's a great way of leveraging your property portfolio inside a limited company, minimizing your corporation tax liability, and minimizing your own personal IHT. So what a great idea. Have you ever thought about doing something like this? Please feel free to drop in a comment below and give me your story. Tell me what's been going on, how you've minimized your IHT bill. All right, before I go on and leave you for today, I want to talk to you about another solution, and they are called growth shares. Now, some people may have heard of them being called ABC shares, growth shares, freezer shares. Ultimately, it's a different type of share classification. It's a type of share that you can give to your child, which is only valued upon your death, which basically means that the asset value of the company can be passed on to your children. Let's go for an example here. Your property value may be at a certain value, £125,000, as we described earlier. But as the property values increase and you haven't leveraged your property portfolio, so you left the mortgages as they are, at some point your assets are going to increase in value, which you can see here, which from the first example we know it's going to create you an IHT problem. We don't want that. We don't want that at all. In fact, we want to get rid of IHT. So what do? You have these growth shares. So you have one share with no voting rights, no dividends rights, and basically no control or say in the company. Your child can have these shares. And once your asset value goes to $325,000, as you can see there, the value stops being passed on to you as an individual, and it is then passed on to the child. So ultimately, they have now got all these assets already in their name. But ultimately, you're not going to tell them they've got these assets. They're not going to go out and spend it. They're going to have these growth shares, and you have it in your will to say, hey, these shares are worth X, and the value for this business is being separated. One from my estate, which is subject to IHT, which no IHT, thank you very much. And then the rest of the value would be then passed on to your children as part of this growth share strategy. Remember, guys, that this is no access to dividends, no access to voting rights, because any child that's a minor and you try and pass income to them will always be treated as your income anyway upon your own personal self-assessment tax return. So there's no point giving minors any money whatsoever. Now, when they come older, you might want to give them a different share that says, well, they can have access to dividends. And then you can give them £2,000 worth of free tax-free dividends, and you can give them wages if they want to work in your business. But we're not talking about that today. That's really part of the previous video that we did earlier. So hopefully you can see how using growth shares can minimize your IHT bill. No IHT in the future, you can grow your property portfolio and everyone is happy. So has this video been useful? Make sure you drop a comment with yes, it's been useful and tell me why. Or if indeed you do have questions, then make sure you drop a comment below with your questions and I'll be sure to answer that within 36 hours. Make sure that you join me on our Monday night webinars live at 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. where I'll be answering your property investment questions and your property tax questions.